chat's going on. Hopefully it's working. Why? That's not right. There. Where it was. Okay. Great. That's on. Awesome. This up. All right. I guess before we start, just as a reminder, the paper is next Wednesday, so keep that in mind. 2-3 pages, double spaced, so not a big thing. Default is Athens versus Sparta. Just give me a little info about both and which you think is like the more, I guess, stable civilization, which you think is like the better long term. But that's just the default. If you want to do other stuff, you're welcome to. For y'all, if you can get it printed out and bring it in, that'd be great. But since this is such a huge class, it's not that big a deal. Otherwise, you can just email it to me. For online folks, obviously, you can just email it to me. Not a big deal. Just put the key in here. Okay. Any questions before we start with the study guide? Great. Okay. Let's start. Yeah. So, starting out with the first part here, the way we view history today based on current events is called what? It's the way we view history today based on current events. So we talked about the very, very start. In fact, it was even in the intro day. But I brought it up again at the start of the class. How we view history. Yes, historical lens. Very good. Yeah, because we're looking back through our own biases, our own modern conception of morality, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And even if we try to put that aside, you can never fully divorce yourself from your modern mindset. Okay. Second one. Prehistory literally means what? Yes. before, or really just before writing. This is just what prehistory means. This is literally is probably the shortest question I've ever had. It's just, what does prehistory mean? Prehistory literally means ... and then it's a four question or a four answer multiple choice. Okay. Before history was recorded is technically correct, but you're also like using the definition in your answer because it's history. But it's multiple choice, so you'd have gotten that. Okay. Next one. In the cave paintings in France from about 35,000 to 15,000 years ago, what was the most important to the artist then? The very old cave paintings. What thing in the art was considered the most important? Yes. Animals. You had the animals. Right, that's later. Yeah, the animals were huge. Which, I mean, the animals were big back then. This was a megafauna, but not as big as they were depicted like in the cave paintings. It was like they were fighting freaking Godzilla back then. I don't know. We probably would have evidence. We probably would have some bones or footprints or something. I don't know. We'd have some footprints. We've got footprints of everything else. All right. Um. Do 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 do. Shoot. How do I put this? Unfortunately, I had to do a couple of true faults in this early test because this was like my first ever test I wrote. What came first? Humans settling down or domesticating animals? Right. The domesticating animals actually led to settling down. Led to settlement. Because again, like if you're gonna domesticate, which the first thing domesticated were dogs, but if you're gonna domesticate, say herd animals, it's easier to just like keep them in a pen than to try to follow the herd around. Um, and if you're gonna keep them in a pen and keep them safe, it's just easier to go ahead and build semi-permanent structures. Okay, on to Mesopotamia. Do 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 do. Um, do I? No way. Oh wait, no. Oh shoot! I forgot that I do. Okay, not Mesopotamia yet. One more up here. I forgot that I do the multiple choice and short answer chronologically. Okay. Name one megalithic structure built during the Mesolithic age. So one of the big old structures we talked about from the megalithic age. Or Mesolithic age, I guess I should say. Mesolithic. Stonehenge. That's, yeah, it's an easy one. Mesolithic. Mesolithic. The It's like late Stone Age, I think. Mesolithic. I'm not actually sure what meso means. Yeah, makes sense. All their tools are made of stone. Um, there was a video we watched. That village? Do you remember what the village was called? Yeah. Do you remember where it was? Close. It wasn't as thick as the other video that I usually use. Yeah, it was Northern Scotland. Not that that really helps with the name, but it would probably help with a Google search. Stone Age Village, Northern Scotland. It will 100% pull it up. Yep. Scarbray. I'll just go ahead and put that up there. Oh, shoot, I didn't write it down. Stonehenge. And then also Skara Brae. This is an example of one of my short answers, me saying, name one of these things. And if you name more than one, it's going to be an extra point. So, but those are the only two we really talked about. Okay, I think that's it for pre-Mesopotamia. Okay, now on to Mesopotamia. Let's talk about Mesopotamian geography. I'm going to break it down. Name one of the rivers the Mesopotamian cities depended on in order to survive. And again, spelling doesn't really matter as long as you're not giving me a completely different river. So what's one of the two rivers that is important in Mesopotamia? Euphrates. There you go. Oops, I spelled that wrong. Euphrates. What was the other one? Yes. Now, you know what? I'm not going to say it till we get to the other river that has a sort of similar spelling. That's like the next chapter. Um, Point being, as long as you don't horribly misspell one of these, you'll be fine. And it's not Euphrates. If you somehow completely screw up Tigris to such a degree that it's a completely different river, that's kind of the only way you're going to get that one wrong. The what? That one would still be okay. There's a river in Rome that is sort of similarly spelled. It's like the river in Rome. And that's a question on like the next test. No, it's Tiber is the one in Rome. And usually it's not until the next one where someone's like, oh yeah, Tiber, Tigris, and they put Tigris for the Tiber River. It's like, I know what you're going for, but that's literally a different river. And so I have to mark that wrong. Huh. Well. All right, let's talk about writing. So what came first? Writing or numbers? When it came to Mesopotamia, anyway. As far as our most recent, digs have discovered, what is oldest? Like written language or numbers? Correct. Mesopotamia had numbers before writing. Hmm? Yeah. Also, again, Mesopotamia was like a huge economic powerhouse, so they're like, this needs to be written down. We need receipts. Yeah. Okay. Speaking of writing, and this is why I was like, I don't understand why this isn't a thing. And I was like, oh wait, I've got short answer question. Um, what is the name of the Mesopotamian form of writing, which comes from the Greek word meaning wedge? And again, you do not have to spell this right. The only reason I can spell it is because I've done it for 10 years. Well, I mean, obviously longer than 10 years, but like I've been doing the same test for like 10 years. Yes. I mean, technically it's, well, they use more than just pictograms. It's cuneiform. Uh, Pictograms were like a category of writing, not a, yeah, not a form of writing. Um, Cuneiform was like very specific to Mesopotamia, and it was because of the wedge that they used to make it. And I'm doing like this. That's not how they wrote. It was very like each thing was very very specific. So it's very like the opposite of cursive. Okay. Do 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 do. Okay, so that's the next one. So we can get back here. Oh. So we can go to this one now. To the major cities. Among Mesopotamian cities, some men rose to prominence to rule over multiple cities. Not kings in the modern sense. These powerful men were called what? Were the men called that ruled over multiple cities in Mesopotamia? There was a specific Mesopotamian word for that. I'm sorry. Are you able to? Do you have power? Do you have PowerPoint? Oh, I don't think I've got. No, I do not have an online version of the first three. I do for four on. Yeah, just like find that section. Yeah, I have to create online versions of the first three. That's what I started doing for my American history courses. Well, I made them originally because I assumed everybody had access to like Office 365. Yeah. Or you could put it on review mode. Well, again, you'd have to have PowerPoint downloaded for that. It's like put it in view and then let me see. View. Oop, that's not it. Yeah, outline view as well. What I meant. Yeah, because just have the notes over here to the side. Okay. Yeah, I'll definitely upload the. I'll make online versions and upload them before Wednesday. Was it in the car with you? So I got a little tossed around. Okay. Oh right. Rulers of multiple Mesopotamian cities. Lugal. We won't leave you behind. Is it completely frozen? Can you? Do you need a hard reset it and make it come back? Or it'll lose all your progress. Yeah, that'll save it. Speaking of Lugals, um, who was the? Oh wait, hold on. Yeah. Who was the great ruler who unified most of Mesopotamia through force? When I say great, I mean that's probably because that's. No, that's much later. We're still in chapter 1. This is a different the great. Sargon. Ah, yeah. I mean, it was his. He literally made it. That dude stole it. Well, initially. Cut his friggin' hand off. Well, his fingers off. Anyway, um, one of the earliest law codes we ever covered, which was quite brutal in its reparations, is called the Code of who? Still frozen? Oh, fun. Um, he was the great ruler who unified most of Mesopotamia through force. And again, great is in parentheses and capital G because he was called Sargon the Great. Oh. Yes, the Code of Hammurabi. It's the law code where it's very much a lot of death sentences. I think that's it for Mesopotamia. Okay, on to Egypt. All right. I think you guys can get this one pretty easy. What was the river that Egypt depended on in order to survive? The Nile. Good. I have very much had a year where I asked this question and everybody just kind of looked at me. It's like, you guys have got to know this. Come on. Oh, boo. Okay. Okay. Uh, I know they're true false, so it's weird to ask this one during review. Um, so there was Lower and Upper Egypt, which was located to the north where the river emptied into the Mediterranean. What was that considered? Yeah. True or false? Lower Egypt was to the north where the river emptied into the Mediterranean. Where the river emptied into the Mediterranean. So, were we saying Lower Egypt is to the north? Correct, because. Right. Right, yeah. Because they weren't using map projections. They were using the river. Yeah. Lower Egypt was to the north. because it was at the end of the river. Um, it really does. Not to mention, like, yeah, and Greenland is not nearly as big as it is. Um, here's another one that you guys should know. The name of the Egyptian form of writing. Hieroglyphics. Yeah. This one is very much not a short answer, so you don't need to know how to spell hieroglyphics, because I'm going to go ahead and look at it while I'm typing it out. I mistyped that. Hiero isn't that difficult. Yeah, it doesn't. It really doesn't. It's a lie. It's a lie when all these words come from other languages. So many of our words come from other languages. Anyway, yeah, hieroglyphics. And again, this is multiple choice, so just know that it's that one. It's hieroglyphics. Alrighty. Um, a bit more specific here. Let's see how many. Wow, we've only got two more. Or, well, yeah. Anyway, who was the man who united Upper and Lower Egypt? They weren't called pharaohs. Also, no, he wasn't really a. I don't know if he was a king before. He certainly was after. And created I guess, the old dynasty, beginning of what we know today as Egypt, or at least ancient Egypt. Narmer. He's the only guy you have to know for Egypt. He's also multiple choice. Actually, I lied. There's another person you need to know for Egypt, but he's not a person. Yes. Nope. You're on the right track, though. In the Middle Kingdom, when even rich commoners could be mummified and passed through to the other world, what divine mummy god became more prominent? So we're talking about underworld stuff. So we're in like Anubis's realm, but not Anubis. During the Middle Kingdom, rich commoners could be mummified and pass on to the other world. What divine mummy god became prominent? He wasn't considered like higher than Ra or anything, but he was more openly worshipped because people were being mummified more. Mm-mm. No, he was the one that would. Yes, Osiris. Yeah, Anubis was the one. Not he wasn't the one that would weigh your soul, but he was the one that if you screwed up, he would eat you. I think. Yeah, he would consume your immortal soul, or your not so immortal soul. I don't remember the name, but I think it was a hippo god. Yeah, your heart had to be lighter than a feather. Okay, a couple of other things going on. Um, do. What was the not so creative name for the mysterious marauders who crippled empires around the Mediterranean? This is just a group of people wrecking up the place. That crippled empires around the Mediterranean. And it's not a very creative name. I mean, it probably sounds creative in like one of these ancient languages, but translated to English is really boring. I mean, we're still in chapter 1. Oh yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, we're done with Egypt. No, but close. They were essentially pirates. No, it was way before the Vikings. Not It's not as creative as the Vikings. Sea people. See, really uncreative. There were people that came from the sea, right? That's probably what like a direct literal translation would have been, but I guess the sea people. Sometimes they're called the sea peoples plural. Um, but yeah, that's the whole thing. There's a weird ass Facebook group I'm a part of. I don't know how I ended up in it, but like they pretend the group is literally called "We Pretend It's the Bronze Age Internet," and I have talked about it, yeah, and yeah, and the three things they go on about is um, Inasu, so bad bronze, um, new age iron weapons, how we don't want this crap, and sea people. So yeah, and like one of the rules is no racism parentheses unless it's sea people. It's very. I don't know how I ended up in this group, but I enjoy watching the posts. Um. So, right back to whatever the hell we were doing. Who was the blind Greek poet credited with the Iliad and Odyssey? Homer. Yes, blind Greek poet. What war was memorialized in Homer's Iliad? The Trojan War. Yeah. The Trojan War, or the Iliad, was about the Trojan War. Which group of people were the first to manufacture iron? And like really gave them an edge for a while. I will say that stupid Facebook group does actually sometimes post like actual archaeology finds that I don't see anywhere else. They're like, hey, you know, out of character. By the way, they actually found this really cool stuff, you know, from the Bronze Age that you don't that you don't actually see on the news because it's super hyper specific. So I've learned some stuff from the silly group. So I guess that's why I stick around. Yeah. First to manufacture iron. They're pretty well known for being a warlike people. That's really. Hmm? No. Although they were doing a lot of that at the time. Oh no, not the Minoans. The power plant. Oh, that sucks. Hittites. Oh, I didn't realize. Yeah. Oh yeah, you can do that as well. It is. Yeah, I just put up the full thing because sometimes you might want to look at the maps or whatever, or some of the stupid images that I include. Okay. Um, I oh yeah, that's it for that section. Oh no, no, wait, one more. Sorry. Which group of people were known as the Purple People due to the red dye they created and traded? And they were also important for like freaking helping to create modern Indo-European languages. The Phoenicians. Exactly. Yeah. Those are weird. Okay. Now to the next section with ancient religion things, which is two questions. Yeah, just two. What is the name for a religion that accepts only one God? Monotheism or monotheistic. And here's one we don't actually talk about, but I mentioned it in class, so it's on the test. The name for a religion that allows for other lesser gods but puts one above the rest. It's not polytheism. And because this isn't like, say, Greek polytheism where, yes, Zeus is the chief god, but everybody else is still very high up and still plays important roles and they can like scheme against Zeus and all this other stuff. This is like there's one big god and everybody else are basically like super minor deities that still sort of exist, but like barely in the grand scheme of things. And realistically, depending on how you look at it, you could say there's maybe angels and demons. But you know, can't have that. So this is a term you probably have not heard before this class. Henotheism. Yeah, that's hold on. The early Judaism. Yeah, they broke away from um, the Canaanite culture and chose Yahweh as their main god, and then they still had all the other gods, but they lowered them in importance. But like Baal was still around, and El was still around, and like all these other gods, they were still around. They were just far less important. And then eventually they were like, which is why like the first commandment is that thou shalt have no other gods before me. So like chief god, other ones are still around. And then eventually it was like, nah, they don't exist at all. They're just demons or whatever. Which the fact that they're like demons still means they exist in the canon to some degree. So whatever. But yeah, like that's what henotheism is. Do what? Yeah, well, it's not their fault that like people later on try to. Yeah, they kept trying to freaking retcon stuff from earlier on. It's like comic book writers, man. Keep retconning stuff. Yeah, I mean, people in comic books dying more than Jesus, man. Coming back, dying, coming back. It's like, oh no, so and so died. I'll be back next year. Okay, on to Greece. Um, oh, we already talked about Homer. So, oh well, I got ahead of myself. The um, the blind Greek poet credited for Iliad and Odyssey. That was Homer. So yeah, Homer, Iliad, and Odyssey. We already had that. Huh. Do, 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 do. Is that? Yes. Okay, a lot of terms here. So time to learn Greek, I guess. Well, late to learn Greek. You should have been learning Greek this whole time. All right. What was the name for a Greek city-state? What was the Greek term for a city-state? Which we used throughout pretty much the whole chapter. And it's still kind of used in some English words today. Because again, we just steal from other languages. It means uses like a part of words in other language in it today. Uh, yes. Well, it's like the ending part of the words having to do with cities. Polis. Yeah. Well, that's polis, Pleis. That's plural. Polis singular. Polis plural. Because like metropolis or trying to think of other ones that aren't like from fantasy scenarios like Necropolis. Um, yeah, that's that's literally what that's where that comes from. Yeah, metropolis is a term. It's also just a name they use. Like, this is make the city metropolis. Like, that's okay, sure. Name the city city. Why not? Smallsville, the city of Townsville, and the town of Citiesville. What was the name of the high defensive area in a Greek city-state? The high defensive area in a Greek city-state. Which, again, is just like using Greek terms to make a word. Which, I mean, I know all this is. The high defensive area in a, yeah, in a city. Sorry. Well, I was like, it's also, it's, no, it's a Greek word. It's technically two Greek words, just like crammed together. That we also, I mean, we don't use this, yeah, Acropolis. It just means the high part of a city. And again, we use the acro part in English words too, like an acrobat. They're, people that do tricks way up in the air, which is kind of dangerous, but whatever. Okay. Next is the marketplace in a Greek city-state, which is to say a wide open area. Agora. Again, we also use that. Though I've only ever heard it with agoraphobia, which is to say, the fear of wide open spaces. So if it's a medical term, I feel like it doesn't really count because they're always using like Latin and Greek. Oh yeah, that's always. They just steal it from Greek and Latin, yeah. I mean, all my all my RP characters are just like boring ass terms, just in other languages. So yeah, yeah, because it's cool to an English ear. It's like, yeah, that's neat. I like German personally. German's always got a cool sound to it. Okay, on to yes, that is true. On to just more things. Um, the Olympic Games were created to honor which Greek god? This one's easy. The Olympic Games were which Greek god are we going to honor just in general? Zeus. Okay, these two are a bit more specific, and and I'm actually going to pull my book out to make sure I don't get them mixed up, because they're easier to mix up, or they're easy to mix up. All right. Olympic Games. Olympic Games. Olympic Games. Here we go. Right. Which word describes the idea of individual excellence and is most often invoked at the Olympic Games? Individual excellence, yeah. I don't have anything to help you with this one. This is just a Greek term. To what? Arete, yeah. Or arete. I don't know what the pronunciation will be. Arete. I even have the little accent mark over the E in the test. I forgot to put Zeus down. I was really focusing. I thought you said you were writing Zeus down. I was like, okay, cool. Yeah, I forgot to put Zeus down. I mean, I feel like that's a pretty easy one. Which word describes the idea that life is a constant struggle or competition, which also has to do with the Olympic Games. And it's yet another Greek term, but is also very small. I mean, the word. Hang on. AGON. So, constant struggle or competition. Which, again, like, is just kind of every day for the Greeks. What was that? Oh, okay. I was a little concerned there for a second. It's like, wait. I went from 23 to 34. That doesn't make sense. Okay. Um, Another Greek word, which again we use today, a bit more often than say polis. Um, what word basically means masses or the people, and which describes those living outside the walls of a city-state, but still part of the political structure. So, what are the masses or the people? The everybody. No, we don't use peons anymore. This is a root term, a root word. We don't use this word by itself, but we use it as part of a word we use all the freaking time. Especially, no, that would give it away. Hmm? No, no. It's a root. It's a root word we don't use by itself. Yeah. Yes. I was gonna say it's a word we use a lot, especially now that Helldivers 2 is out. We just scream democracy while shooting. Yes. Well, yeah, that's absolute democracy. Um. Eh, that wasn't the one that was used though. So I thought it was the uwu one was the one that was actually used. Yeah, but that one wasn't actually used, so it's fine. Um. Right. One more. I think this one's still in this section. You need to chill out. Okay, we're not going on to Persia just yet. Um, the name of an individual soldier who fought in a phalanx, which is again also technically a Greek term. Yes. And then once we're done with this, that should be it for Greek terms for the most part. I mean, the cities are still going to be Greek names, but as far as like Greek terms, this one we don't really use. So you're just going to need to know this one. But these are individual soldiers who fought in a phalanx. Although if you've ever played, yeah, I was gonna say if you ever played any type of, yeah, I was gonna say if you ever played any kind of game, they've probably used hoplite. They fought in a phalanx. Yeah, spears and shields. All right. They were pretty lightly armored, relatively speaking. They had like shin guards and arm guards and not much else. Because you hoped that the shield covered everything else. All right. So on to Persia. Man, we might just do this. Oh, okay. What was the name of the battle in the first Persian invasion, where outnumbered Athenians all but single-handedly defeated the Persian invaders? This is technically a Greek term, but we use it so much now, it really doesn't feel like one. We use this term all the time in multiple meanings. Marathon. Yeah, the one dude ran back to Athens, right? And then supposedly died of exhaustion after giving the, Athens is full of itself. Well, yeah, but like they were especially. Following the death of Darius, who was the king who Darius led the first invasion. His son led the second invasion at the head of a 300,000 man army. Who was his son? Who was Darius' son? I really didn't word this question very well. Well, the question is, following the death of Darius, who led the first invasion, his son, blank, led the second invasion of Greece, who at the head of a 300,000 man army. So, in the blank is who? Xerxes. I think I don't have a number for him. I would assume it's the first. If he doesn't have a number, he's probably the first. Bum, 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 bum. What was the number of Spartans who made the famous last stand at the Battle of Thermopylae? The number of Spartans who made the famous last stand at the Battle of Thermopylae. Famous last stand. Yeah, you don't even know Thermopylae. Not really. 300. 300 Spartans. Yeah. 300. Yeah. I don't. I must have changed this around since the initial one, because I swear I had like the last big battle of the Persian Wars, but no, that's it. Marathon, Xerxes, and the 300 Spartans. All right, let's talk about the leagues and then also the various city-states. What was the name of the league under Sparta, which was used in the war against Athens? It was the name of the landmass that... The name of the league that Sparta formed and was used in the war against Athens. Just remember, after Persia, Athens and Sparta went to war eventually, and they had two major leagues that they used. The Peloponnesian League. Hello. Real quick, just to go ahead and get this one done. The name of the agricultural slaves used by Spartans. Helots. I wasn't sure where else to put that, so there it is. What was the name of the league formed around Athens, which was used against Sparta in the conflict between them? The Delian League. Yeah, well, it was formed around Delos, which was a city in the middle of the Aegean Sea. And one more city-state just to toss in there. What's the name of the in-between city that Sparta and Athens often sought to ally with in their many struggles? What was the polis that was right in the middle between Athens and Sparta? Corinth. Very good. And then you need to remember 1 year for this test. What was the year that the Athenian Empire fell, which also spelled the end of the golden age of Athens? The Athenian Empire. Athens. And like I said, it's kind of ironic, at least with modern day sensibilities, but obviously they wouldn't have gotten it. And they wouldn't have been using that dating system anyway, so it would have. No. No, it's not. 404 BC. The computer error code. Exactly. Yeah. Would not have made any sense to them. Okay. It's technically time to go, so if you guys have to go, you can go. Or we can quickly get through. We've only got like a few questions for Alexander the Great. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, I think. So, I'm gonna quickly try and do that. Do. Uh, What was the name of the Macedonian man who became king, then led his armies down to unite Greece? Who's the Macedonian who made his way down to unite Greece? Philip the First. I think he was Philip the First. It doesn't matter. It's just Philip on the test. I don't know why I bothered with Philip the First. Actually, do I have him in the? Alexander the Great is not a question because he's Alexander the Great, so you don't need. He's just not even a question. What was the name of the battle? Yeah. Battle where a unified Greek force was defeated soundly by the Macedonian army, ushering in the Hellenistic age. What was the big battle between Philip and the Greeks? Also, Alexander was there. Mm-hmm. Yep, Philip was. This was his big thing, his big final battle against the Greeks. Chaeronea, yes, I think it's Chaeronea. Chaeronea, I don't know. I don't know Greek. And the thinkers of the age, and then we'll be getting to just a few last questions. Who was the classical thinker whose method of teaching was to ask questions and then get the answers from his students? Socrates. Yeah, I have to remember which ones are which myself. Yeah, this was Socrates. I will say that playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey will make you remember Socrates. He was a pain in the butt. Who is the great mind who synthesized both sides of an argument to come up with a resolution? So he took Socrates' method of teaching a step further, essentially. I was going to give you that. Plato. Yeah, Plato's the other one. Don't even worry about Aristotle. Even though he's one of the guys, he's not one of the answers. Okay. Stuff that Alexander got up to. After Philip died, and Alexander invaded Persia, how did he solve the famous Gordian knot? He cut it with his sword. Yeah, cut it with his sword. Cut with his sword. Gordian knot. Um, what was the name of the city he founded in Egypt, which became the cultural and commercial center of the ancient world? Mm-hmm. Big important city in Egypt. We even have a few here in the U.S. named after that, named after him. Alexandria. Yeah. Again, he's a real humble guy. All right, the dudes that showed up after him, um, who ended up ruling the kingdom of Greater Greece? Dude's got a real badass name, I'll be honest. So, Greater Greece was it? Hmm? Yeah, yeah. What is but he's got a title or a descriptor to his name. What's his descriptor? Back on it. Okay, I'm just gonna go ahead and he's Antigonus the One-Eyed. So dude lost an eye at some point. How about Egypt? He ended up creating a dynasty. It lasted about 300 years, yeah. So who was in charge of Egypt? And this is one that you could pick up from Assassin's Creed Origins. Ptolemy the First. Tolemy. And Persia slash the rest of it. So who was the guy that had the rest of it, even though that bit started falling apart pretty quick? So Lucius, Selucus, the first. All right. One last thing. Well, two last things. I'm just going to read this one out. It's true false. Compared to the classical works of art, Hellenistic art preferred realism to more individual pieces over mathematically perfect ideas. So, did Hellenistic art have more realism, or did they do like the mathematically perfect stuff? What was Hellenistic art focused on? Realism. Realism slash individualism. Last question, and then we'll be done. Thank y'all for sticking around. What was the term used to describe the spread of the Greek language, and by extension culture, thanks to the expansion of Alexander's empire? And the term literally means making Greek. To make something Greek. Yes, Hellenization. And then there's, of course, extra credit within the short answer, and then there's extra credit at the end, which I need to do, but I'll do that later. And yeah, that's it. I'll see y'all on Wednesday. Today's Monday. Yes, Wednesday. Do what? Wednesday, yep.